All right, welcome to our container security group meeting. I'm super excited for these demos today. Alexander, you've got the first item.
Yeah, so the ability, so originally this is something we missed, and then Sam brought it back to our attention that when creating a policy, that's where you decide whether you want to have an alert or not. And I merged that code last week. And so now you can add a policy and say, yes, I want to alert with this. It's got a little banner that gives a warning about our making sure that you're not flooding GitLab with alerts, but that is it now.
Yeah, fantastic. That looks great. I know almost every time we do a demo, Alexander, and I look at it, I think of another thing that I throw back at you, and I feel bad because I'm about to do that again.
Perfect.
It just crossed my mind literally like 5 minutes ago. I'm wondering what happens if users don't have CAS set up. What if they're using only GitLab Managed Apps v2? Do we still give them that option in the UI to send an alert to GitLab? And how do we let them know that they need to install CAS in order for this to work?
That's a great question, and a use case that I definitely did not think about.
I did not either, to be fair. So
let's write an issue for it.
I would take the blame on that one because I left that out of the requirements entirely, but just realized we might be running into an edge case here based on the way we've designed things where, we've got this easy button in the UI, but it's not obvious that you have to install CAS for this thing to work.
Definitely.
And when you say install CAS, you mean the agent?
Yes.
Yeah.
The agent, the GitLab Kubernetes agent.
Because there's a CAS is on the GitLab side, agent K is on the cluster side. So they need to install agent K, I think.
Yeah, and you might have to install CAS only if you have a self-hosted GitLab.
That's it. Sam and I were just talking about that. We got a few things that are looking like going to make in 13.8. But there's a complication of the feature flag that's currently off by default. So switching that on to on by default in such a short notice would be risky, in my opinion, but also complicated by the fact that if we do switch it on by default, we have to force it to off on gitlab.com because gitlab.com won't have CAS until it has CAS. Another team is doing that. Anyway,
from the UI perspective, in the case of alert, if you just add the notation and you save the network policy, it's not going to break anything. It's just going to be a false positive that you think that you're doing something that you're actually not doing it.
I think it deserves its own issue, Sam. Just to say in this instance, we want to do. I mean, let us know. Do you still want us to hide it, or do you want us to let him create it and say, hey, this is not going to work until you do these other things?
Sounds good. Yeah, we don't have to flesh that all out here. It just crossed my mind as I saw this. So I'll create an issue for that and we can figure out what to do.
Yeah.
But great work on that. Thanks for adding that dialogue, Alexander. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Tiago, you said a lot of interesting things just now about .com and agent K versus CAS. Let's save that for, I think Wayne has an agenda item at the bottom that I think will ties that into that nicely. So but I have several questions regarding that.
Sounds good. I'll repeat the words. I'll take the second demo. I won't do the actual demo, but John has created an integration for Trivy. Right now, container scanning in GitLab uses Claire, and as part of live container scanning, we investigated using Trivy. We compared how easy it would be to implement and the outcome, the values of how do they look, and Trivy came out ahead. We made a choice to use that for live container scanning. But then Jan on his own personal time, he went ahead and did the integration for the image scanning. And the demo would even be boring because it works exactly the same as container scanning right now. So I think we had a plan to do some work on Claire in the short in 13.9, and now we're considering should we go ahead and not do that and focus on Trivi instead. And to enable that, I'm gonna have I'm gonna write an issue to check whether or not this could be a drop-in replacement. So if a customer is running container scanning in Claire and we replace that with Trivi, does it magically work? I.e. the environment variables, all the parameters, the user-facing controls, are they still honored? And on the flip side, do the reports, the report looks the same because we ingest and all that, but you might get more or less vulnerabilities with Trivi because at the end of the day, it's a different scanner and a different database. So you could get different results. So we want to know that as well. But it's really good. Zamir and Sam have words in there if you want to add to it.
Yeah, I'm just super excited about this. This is awesome news. You know, we were trying to figure out what to do here anyway, and I'm really excited about how much work has already been done here that John did for us. So we don't have a great sample size, but we do have 3 data points from different customers that have expressed an interest in Trivi and a preference for Trivi over Claire and Clar. So, you know, 3 votes for switching, no votes for keeping the same. Again, not a huge sample size, but it is an indicator that switching it out would make at least some customers really happy. Even just having these projects here, even if we don't switch it out in the product, you know, pointing them at these projects and letting them adopt them is going to be a huge, you know, time saver for them. So I'm really excited about this.
David, do you want to verbalize your comments?
Yeah,
they're good comments.
It's just that the code size is very small, and the dependency is like 0. So if you compare that with Claire, it's way different. And also, the test approach is awesome. It has tests for everything already. It has a huge amount of tests already from the amount of code that we have. So that's something that, again, we didn't have for Claire. And that's I really like that. It was amazing.
Thank you. You should Zamir just keep the floor since you've got the last demo?
Yeah, I can go ahead.
Sorry, not demo, a walkthrough.
Yeah. For me, like the demo was just something that we don't have the.
You're so humble. Call it a demo.
Just a couple of things. I know Alexander wants to talk about that later on. I just want to mention that CAS doesn't have the version that we have our features right now on staging. So then that's why we cannot demo there. And also CAS is in the progress of being bundled into gitlab.com. I have the MRs and I can share that if whenever you want to take a look on that. So just, oh, I'm not sharing my screen, sorry. Let me just move this over. Okay. Yeah, okay. So just a quick, can you guys see my screen? Okay, so this is the workflow for GitOps. We're not too concerned here. The things that I want to show here is the relationship between the Kubernetes agent and the agent configuration repository. The agent configuration repository, it's a project that's going to contain the base configuration for the agent. So when you're using the agent, you have to have a repository that's going to load information to the agent. And if you're using GitOps, you also need additional repositories that's going to contain the manifests, but I don't want to focus too much on that unless you have specific questions about how GitOps works. But in general, now agent has 2 modules. One is GitOps, the other one is ours. So I have the very basic setup that I have here is that I have a regular Go project. And then this Go project is also the place that I have my agent configured. So if we go inside the .gitlab, we are going to have this, the format is .gitlab agents, and then the name of the agent and the config .yml that you want. So here, what I have is that I have the Git Ops feature here that I just use this to make sure that we are not breaking each other's work. So we have the Git Ops feature here that basically just have which projects are considered to be manifest that it's need to keep pulling. But again, like I'm talking about that, but we should not worry too much about Git Ops right now. And then what we have now is that we have Cilium, and then we have Hubble Relay address. The way we did this is that it requires the Hubble Relay, it's going to change slightly from version 1.8 and 1.9. And people might have like ingress to Hubble Relay, or they might have a specific service that they want to set up. The default one is cluster IP, that it comes by default. And then what I do here, I just put localhost because that maps to my machine, my local environment. So that's what's required from the user perspective to add to start the module of the Cilium alerts inside the agent. I run this project because we have the application, and then with the application, we have the environments. I'm gonna mention why we need the environments. If we go to thread monitoring, I'm gonna speed up a little bit. If I'm too slow, you guys just let me know. So we have no alerts for now. And under policy, oh, sorry. If we don't have any environment, this page is going to be blank. Why? Because when we initially developed this page, it was based on statistics, and the statistics requires the environment. So I don't know if that's something, I create an issue for that. I don't know if that's something that we want to tackle in the future, or if it is something that's not important at all.
I see Sam taking notes. I think I see an issue coming.
Go ahead, though. I'm not going to interrupt your demo.
So then I'm just going to reset this basic scenario that I'm having here. I have a scenario that I have a Go application, and this is the same project that handles the agent K configuration. There is another scenario as well. There's a scenario that you have a group, and this group is going to have one project for the agent K configuration, and the other projects are going to be the one that are going to be deployed and everything like this. So just to be clear that we are on a very simple side of things. Does anyone have any questions so far? Okay, so then what we have here, we have a policy that's disabled. I'm gonna go to the policy page here. It's a very simple, I just create like a network policy that has ingress. This is going to be related to the namespace that I deployed here. And what happens that this network policy only allow ingress from endpoint that have this app none. And I have nothing in a cluster like this. This is just for us to force some drops. But this disabled. So that's why if we go to the application here on the other side, I can just refresh it and it's working. Can you guys see my both browsers? Okay. So then now if we enable, just another point, alerts not enabled here. So if I just enable this and we save, so now we have an enabled network policy that's going to allow only ingress from that label app none, that there is nothing in the cluster. So then whenever we try to load, it's going to time out. That was the basic thing that we had before. This is nothing new. It's just how we implemented network policy in previous iterations. I just want to wait a little bit for the timeout. And then if I do a refresh here, we shouldn't see any alerts because those are going to be related things.
We believe you. You don't have to wait for the timeout because the rule would have generated an alert already.
Okay, so then if we go back to the policy now, and if I add alerts, now we have the annotation here that we agreed upon. And let me save it. And then I'm just gonna trigger another load here. So what's going to happen? I'm just gonna show you this pretty quickly here. So the Git for network policy, we go from the UI, we call the backend. The backend uses the kube controller, and then we save stuff in the cluster. Same thing for the loading. When we load network policy, we load from the cluster to kubectl backend, and it goes to the UI. Alert is going to work in a very different way. Alert create, it's going to go from the cluster to agent K, from agent K to CAS, from CAS to the private API, and then to the DB. And loading alerts, then it's not going to be similar to this flow here. Loading alerts is just going to be from the DB, the backend, and UI using GraphQL. So now let me refresh here. And we see the alerts. So there's a couple MRs still open for this to work as is. I think there's 1 or 2 MRs for that. The details are in progress. Alexander is working on that. But they work because I hacked a little bit the other page just to see if they were coming up or not. The point is that if I go to operations now and show alerts, we are not going to see anything there. Okay, and no error message as well. And these are the things I have. Let me know if you have any questions.
How come we got heaps of alerts there, not just one?
What happened is that when you go to the browser and you make a request like that, it's not one request that gets sent, right? It gets sent the request over time. So what I did in my test is that I did a curl, and then for the curl you can set like 1, and then you just get 1. It's the
right.
It's the
the browser is making multiple requests there, even though you hit the refresh once. There's a bunch of odd connections there going there.
Yeah, and what I did is that if I go to the Cilium log, you get the same number in the Cilium log. So that's something that it's from the
consistent.
root. Yeah.
So on that same note, I know that the monitor team is able to aggregate these up to some extent. So maybe that's a future issue, but because you can have multiple events tied to the same alert. And so ideally we would, roll those all up so that you just have one item in this list and it says, oh, it happened 20 times.
Okay. Yeah.
Maybe that's a follow-on. I thought that we were getting that roll up for free with the way that it was handled, but it would make sense because Cilium is different than the technologies they're using. Maybe we have to implement that roll up, that aggregation logic ourselves.
And from the log, if you see the raw log, there is something called, there is a couple of flags called, I forgot the name of the flag specifically, but they have different types. They have like acknowledgement, they have system, they have a couple of flags for the same request. So maybe we could filter on that level as well.
Okay, but yeah, that's good to know. It's okay. I'll just make another issue for that. I was not sure if we were going to get that for free or not, but.
This is great, Samir. I just want to call out everything that went into this because integrating with Cilium is not an easy task. There's only so much that documentation tells you. Zamir had to go and reach out to the Cilium developers. The CAS side on GitLab, it's Golang. I mean, Zamir's expertise is in Rails, Ruby on Rails. He basically learned Golang to go do this thing. That's impressive. So thank you.
But that's also the API work, the GraphQL work was Jan's, and front end was 100% Alexander. So for me, at the end of the day, it's just Agent K and Cass.
Well done. Team effort.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, thank you for the demo. It's looking fantastic. I'm super excited for this.
Yeah. Oh, Zamir, could you send me over the payload for this demo that you've given me, like the payload from GraphQL for those alerts? Because I noticed that the alert name is not the policy name, and
Okay,
I should see if we can get that in there.
sure.
That's what Sam, you want it to be the policy name, right?
Yes, exactly. Because where else would that be configured, right? The name of the policy should be the name of the alert.
Right. So yeah, there's just some, I'm using the wrong field, it seems like, on the front end for the name column, and should be an easy fix.
Sure, I'm gonna send you right away.
Awesome, thank you. I have not, as this has been in flux, I have not had a back end to work with, but also container security is sort of notoriously hard to set up a local environment for, and it's something I need to do. I want to be able to make my own policies, but I'm a little hesitant to like set up Helm.
You've been doing amazing. Like given that you've been mocking this using like imagine this was you've been imagining for a whole month. Yeah.
Yeah,
sure.
So I might be reaching out to you for some details on how to get this working on my machine as well.
Mostly by your own merit. So good job there as well.
Thank you.
I think we dovetail kind of well into Wayne's question, right? Coming out of this, should we, or do we want to keep talking about the demo a little bit more?
Yeah, let's cover Wayne's. Unless Zamir, did you have more to cover on the demo?
I just have one thing. The MR for annotation is there, open. I'm gonna open the L4. Right now we just support L3. So then I'm gonna open L4 for sure before the end of this week, and maybe L7 too. So from the Agent Case side, we should have most of the things by the end of this week.
And then you're out for 2 weeks, right?
10 days, yes.
10 days.
Well deserved too.
Thank you.
All right, so for Wayne's item, he says, what's the next enhancement we're planning to put in a future release post? Which release is this tentatively planned for? Well, of course, that would be the alert dashboard is the next one that's release post worthy. Timing, I'm going to defer to Lindsay and Tiago.
Alexander, you've done a good job with the answer there on the front end. I haven't read it all, but I'll let you verbalize. I'll just do my spiel from my answer there. I said 39 because even though the Cilium integration is done, it's merged, it's available right now. We don't have L4. Zamir just mentioned he's going to get the MR there. Annotations is definitely gonna get in by 13.8, but L4 and L7 may or may not get by 13.8. We do have a complication of the feature flag, and as part of removing a feature flag or turning a feature flag by default, there's a process that you need to follow. We can't remove the feature flag because .com doesn't have CAS. If we remove the feature flag, .com will start showing the stuff and it won't work. So our only option is to turn it on by default. We'd still need to go through these checks, and I think it's cutting way too close. So this is likely to be live 13.8 or early 39, but I wouldn't be comfortable saying, oh yeah, we'll have it in 13.8. Sorry, long-winded explanation for a short answer of 39. Alexander, do you want to talk about the questions and the front end?
Yeah, so I think this...
If you're comfortable discussing front end, if you want to wait for Lindsay to
No, it's fine. I think what's throwing me off here is so this is basically going to be sort of ready for self-hosted before it's ready for .com. And that is where like it's concerning from like a testing standpoint of whether this works properly, because if we've just, I mean, do we have a self-managed system we can like run this on and test this on besides like our local machines?
Yeah, no, but we could get one. We have Google Cloud access. We could just deploy an instance there, but I don't see how that's any better than your local environment, to be honest.
It should be the same.
Yeah.
Okay. So, yeah.
On this point, sorry, Alexander. There are two MRs that's going to be allowing this. I can put them on the document. They got approved, both of them. There's just a few minor comments, so they should be merged pretty quick, and then we are going to have it on staging. But yeah, it might take a week. That's true.
So yeah, we won't have a self-managed, but we will have staging.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So, okay. I think then if we have it on staging, then I'll feel comfortable that it'll work on self-hosted if it's working properly on staging, right? Does that make sense?
It does. I mean, I don't know enough about CAS, what needs to be done on infrastructure and what needs to be done on a self-managed instance. So there's that caveat there.
There is okay information about that. I can also put that somewhere. How to enable CAS if you're handling self-hosted. Basically, it's all here.
It's on Slack, right? You shared on Slack the other day. I saw it. Oh no, you sent it to me directly. Sorry.
I think it's mostly like edits to your configuration file for GitLab.
Yeah, you just enable CAS over there.
Okay.
But I think that's the answer, Alexander. It should work. So I think from the front end point of view, what we're missing is the annotation, isn't it? Or it's
the new issue about the adding alerts with, and then informing the user somehow, or
no, not that one. No, Zamir, you mentioned something.
There is the understanding that I have is that for the GraphQL, we are going to affect the monitoring team that we are sharing the code. And then I understand that from Alexander's perspective, as soon as he start tackling those things, it's very important to be testing in production because we don't want to break their stuff.
Right. Okay. So yeah, on the front end, there's three things I can see right now. There's updating the name field to show the policy name instead of whatever it's showing now. There is updating the GraphQL query that we're currently sharing with the alert team, the monitor team, so that our alerts go to our page. Because right now in staging, I just have it so that we're getting the alerts, the monitor alerts as well, because otherwise I wouldn't have a UI to test against. And then there's the third issue of that Sam mentioned in the beginning of this meeting about the demo and informing the users if the alerts are available even.
The answer that I'm looking for, just to take you off the, not to put it in a corner, is it doesn't matter if, I think it doesn't matter that much if front end is not done in 13.8, because I've already made a call for backend on 39. So if you're comfortable with these front end bits being done in 39, I think you're off the hook.
Yeah, I do think 13.9 is reasonable. I think my biggest concern was more about that testing, but Zamir says we'll get staging potentially next week. So if we can test there, then I feel like self-hosted will be fine, and then we can release.
And with that, we're at time. Anyone for any more?
All
Sam?
right. Thanks for all the great demos today. we're making some great progress, and I'm super excited to roll this one out. So thanks for your time today, and we'll chat again next week.
See you, friends.